And that's the idea here, folks. So we'll move on to the next slide. And it's really important because this webinar today is for beginners. SEO is a really big topic. And so the goal here is for things to be easy to understand and implement, right? And if you're intermediate or advanced, stick around. Some of this stuff will be review or things you know, but you never know. You might see a couple things that are very specific and might help you out as well. Or if you can help out people in the chat, that'd be awesome too. So this course, or this webinar rather, is definitely for beginners. So what are we going to cover today? On the agenda today is some definitions and benefits. We'll take a look at 5 tips for businesses that require leads. You know, if you're a law firm or you a tax service, basically any business that uses appointments or some type of leads before you have a client. And we'll do 5 tips for businesses with storefronts. So if you're a local shop owner, we'll talk about local SEO and how that works as well. I'll talk about resources that are available to you. In this section, we'll talk about a success story that we'd like to share with you. And of course, any questions that you might have, happy to answer. We'll try to leave as much time as possible for questions. Now, we'll start off with SEO definitions and benefits. SEO, you hear that term? What is it? It equals search engine optimization. All right, not much there, but what is search engine optimization, right? That's the question. Well, it's a noun, first of all, and it's magic. Not really. Some people also have an acceptable definition as nerdy stuff. Well, not really. But by the book, search engine optimization is the process of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website. And we're talking about traffic to your website on search engines or through search engines like Google without paying for ads, otherwise known as organic marketing or organic strategy. Okay, that's the definition. And why is SEO important? And you might also be asking, and you should be asking this, why is this question mark smaller and blue? Now, before we answer any of those questions, you're probably also asking, why should anyone listen to me? Well, just a little bit about me. My name is Shai Moon. People call me Shai. You can find me and our team at Shai Creates. We're a creative firm specializing in brand design, marketing, and event production. But a little bit more about myself, besides the fact that I like to look off into the distance, into light. I'm an artist, I'm a designer, copywriter, brand and marketing strategist. I've been doing this for over 2 decades, and I'm very, very passionate. Some even say obsessed with doing creative work, for better or for worse. And I love, love, and love. I love people. I love the work that I do. I love the fun that I do. I don't even like to call it work. I like to call it fun. And I love people and the work and the fun, which means that I like working with the people behind the businesses. And so a lot of the things that we're uncovering today is about empowering people behind the businesses. And of course, I wear glasses and a beard, so that's why you should listen to me. Let's get back to the question at hand. Why is SEO important? Well, number one, SEO is important because it is what everyone says you should do. Okay, that's not the real reason why SEO is important. SEO is important because number one, it focuses on customers, clients, and users, meaning that it's about drawing people to your business and not necessarily going out and doing cold calls like we used to do back in the 80s and 90s. It's about inbound and bringing customers and clients to your business and to your website. And it drives engagement, clicks, calls, visits. These are all things that are meaningful metrics to your business, and SEO drives all that. It's also an investment towards business growth, meaning that when you use SEO, basically you're giving your business a chance rather, to grow in the long term over time, because content, which is a big part of SEO, stays on the web. So over time, you do some work ahead and it stays online and people continue to find your articles and posts, which can lead to business growth and also reveals new opportunities. When you do research for SEO, you have a chance to learn things that people are searching for that you never thought of that you can provide content on. And so new opportunities reveal themselves. And of course, it provides measurable results, meaning, hey, at the end of the day, I'm looking for results, whether that's traffic, whether that's leads or customers or clients or some other measurable result. SEO is a great way to measure your investment against your results. So let's get back to the agenda at hand. We're going to move on to 5 tips for businesses that require leads. Tip number 1, write down client questions. What does that mean? Well, the benefit of writing down client questions is that it helps you with keyword research. And keyword research is the foundation of content creation. That's blog posts, ebooks, infographics, videos, things people are using and searching for and looking for to help them not only educate themselves, but also eventually make a buying decision. So if you're a lawyer, and you know what, Kelsey or Rosa in the chat box, it'd be great to find out what different types of businesses people have. So folks, if you want to just write down what type of business you have, you don't have to write down the name of your business. Then along the way, I'll try to give some examples that are relevant to some of your businesses. So just thought I'd throw that out there so I can give some relevant examples. But let's just use the lawyer example. If you're a lawyer and you have a law firm website, then you can write a blog post based on something that your clients always come in and ask you, or on a consultation call, they're saying, hey, can you tell me what is considered discrimination at work? And well, if that's a question you get a lot, that's perfect fodder for creating content. So these are the benefits. How do we do this? Well, number 1, you simplify these client questions into seed words. And what are seed words, you ask? Well, if somebody asks the question, hey, when is the tax deadline? The seed words would be pared down to the words tax and deadline. And the reason we want to pare it down to these 2 words is because when we entered these words into keyword research tools like Moz Keyword Explorer and Google Search Bar, and by the way, I'll be throwing around a lot of jargon and terms and websites you may have never heard of, but the good news is we'll share this presentation afterwards with the group, and you can actually click on all these links and it'll take you straight to these websites as well. But going back to the matter at hand, seed words, when you type in these seed words into these 2 example tools, and there's plenty of tools out there, this is what it looks like. So let's say we took the seed words tax, deadline, and we put this into the Moz keyword tool. As you can see right here, we get the information on how many searches per month are for these exact 2 keywords. That's pretty, I mean, it's not too surprising, but between 30 to 70,000 people per month are typing in the exact 2 words, tax and deadline. But what's also cool is that you get to see how hard it is to rank for this word. And this is on a scale of 0 to 100, and typically between the 20 and 60 scales, what you want to go for. It doesn't mean it's impossible to try to create content for keywords that are higher, but you want to see what you have as low-hanging fruit. And this is a pretty good keyword for the tax attorneys out there. Do we have any tax attorneys out there, Kelsey or Rosa? Since I'm just using this example. Nope, we got a no. Awesome. We'll keep moving on. But also you get other ideas. When you put in the seed word, the simplest form of a question, then you also get other ideas that add on more words. So in this example here, tax deadline extended, tax deadline 2020. These are all different variations that you can actually hone in on these extensions of the seed keyword and write articles specific to them. And as a general rule of thumb, the fewer words, the harder to rank for. The more words, the less harder it is to rank for. Now, what type of examples of businesses do we get? If you want to just put that in the chat there. Okay, we got Chelan Douglas Regional Port Authority. We got Wenatchee Wild Hockey. We got a home inspector. We got event coordinator, party planner, coordinator, party planner. Perfect example. I'm making this up, but a question could be, hey, how much does it cost? I'll just start really basic. How much does it cost to plan an event for, let's say, 500 people? So that's a really long question, right? How much does it cost to plan an event for 500 people? So you can just put in as a seed keywords, event planner cost. Put that into this tool and see some of the suggestions, see how hard it is for those exact keywords. And then you have a chance to kind of take a look at some of your options to create content on, with the idea that people will be searching for this information. And if you get a chance and you write a really well thought out article, then you'll show up on Google search results and get traffic from this content. A couple other pieces here. There's a measurement called click-through percentage. What that means is, even if you do rank on page 1 of Google, which, let's be honest, hardly anybody goes on to page 2 and above, or below rather. What this means is, even if you do rank on page 1, what's the percentage chance that someone would even click through? And the reason why it's not 100% is because we all know, and we see this, that at the top of Google, sometimes and most often, there are ads and they take up a lot of space. There's also local listings and they take up a lot of space. So even if you get your article to rank organically, it doesn't mean that 100% of the time this 30 to 70,000 people are going to be coming to your site. And lastly, this priority tool takes into consideration all this data and gives you kind of a score. And this is a pretty good score because it's green and answers the question, should you try to rank for this keyword? And I know we don't have tax attorneys out there, and I'll get off it, I promise. But if I was a tax attorney, I'd be writing an article about tax deadline. All right, well, that's what it looks like in the Moz Keyword Explorer. Now, we all know this, but you can also just type in tax deadline into Google. And the first thing you'll see sometimes is your history. So you want to ignore that one with this little clock icon. But everything else are various ideas for extensions on your seed keyword. So tax deadline 2020 business, or 2021 rather, 2021 federal. These are all good opportunities. Some of these include specific states and locations. Nonetheless, these are 2 ways to come up with ideas just based on your client questions. And I like to kind of give you a couple other things, right? Content based on research. And as far as this tip, estimated time to gather some client questions between 50 to 30 minutes. Tip number 1, write down client questions. Next tip, tip number 2, share all your content. This might seem obvious, but you know what? It has a lot of benefits. Number 1, you could be seen by people you don't know through shares, but you also get a chance for other marketers to link to you. You know, when you come up with valuable information, this also presents an opportunity for other sites to then now use you as a resource. And that's where some of the magic happens. When you create a valuable piece of content, let's say you took some questions your clients are asking, and now you've created a blog post. Well, if you've taken the time after you've built out that content to do something that really provides a lot of value, other people might link to you, and that helps with your domain authority, which is basically a score for how valuable your domain is to the eyes of Google. But you also get trust when you keep your marketing channels active. And by marketing channels, we mean your social, your email, and other ways that you promote online. By staying active and sharing, people see that you're in business and that you're relevant and that you're consistently putting out things. And that's a big part of SEO, is trust, because a part of SEO is how long do people stay on your website? How many visitors do you get? As Google sees that you get more traffic and that people are staying in your site longer, that's a signal of trust. So a couple ways to do it: obviously share on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. But you also want to send to your email lists. If you have email lists, anytime you publish something new, whether it's every time you publish a blog post or ebook, or if you have a newsletter that summarizes the month's blog posts, share them to your email lists, but also try to send to publications, in the local area here, sharing it with some of our publications like Wenatchee World or other options as well, or even especially if it's noteworthy. We had a big project here out in Chelan, and by the way, that's where we're located. We're in Chelan. So hello to everybody else that's joining from Chelan. We had a big project here at Slide Waters, which is our water park, where they were installing this surf, this world-renowned surf activation, where you can actually surf in a pool there, and it feels like real waves. So that was a big deal. So that's something noteworthy to write about if you're tangential to that, if you're a construction company that helped build that, if you're a vendor that helped supply with that, and you want to write up about the process about this really big project, then other publications might want to pick this up. And you also want to add links in relevant conversations to communities, Facebook groups or Reddit. Groups are getting more visibility on social media, even more than your page. So if you're a member of a group or if you own a group on Facebook, you can share blog posts and other content within these communities. Now, you don't want to spam or just cold link a post. It's part of a relevant conversation, not just, hey, here's my blog post. And guess what? You might get banned, or people might say, please don't spam our Facebook group. If you have a blog post that answers a question that somebody's asking in the Facebook group, that would be a great way to share content as well. So that's tip number 2. It takes a while, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of research. So between 30 or 6 to 60 minutes per session is how long it would take to share content, especially if you have a lot of social networks and you have a large email list. It takes some time to put that email together. All right, moving along here. Tip number 3, speed up your site. This is a big issue. The benefits of speeding up your site: number 1, you provide people with a better experience for them, so they stay on your site. The probability that people will leave your site increases by 32% from just 1 to 3 seconds on load time. So in our current culture today, if your site's not loading fast, more likely they're going to jump off. But you also have a better chance of ranking in Google searches if your site loads properly. And the fact that people have this tendency to leave your site if it loads too slowly is a big factor in Google's decisions to rank your posts. So how do we speed up your site? Well, there's a couple ways to do this. Number 1, you can reduce image sizes. And there's a great site called Optimizilla. If we have some time, I'll do a demo of how it works. Basically, you can take a huge image, drag and drop it onto this web page, and it will make the size smaller without significant reduction in quality. It's really cool. I've seen images that have 1 megabyte or 1000 kilobyte size, and it got reduced by 90%. And just by uploading that optimized image to my website, had a huge difference in load speed. If you have a WordPress site, and I know a lot of people do, add a caching plugin or caching plugin, but I don't know what the right way to say that is. They both sounded weird to me when I said it, to be honest with you. But either way, you want to add this plugin. It's really easy to do. Literally search. I got to say it again. Caching plugin or caching plugin. And when you search it, you look for it. There's 5 usually top contenders. Look for the reviews and add it. What that does is it compresses all your files and serves a static version of your site. So when people come back to your site, they don't have to load the page again. They load a saved version of your page in their browser. But also you can go to Google PageSpeed and you can take a look at other suggestions. Some of these things might be advanced. You might need somebody with a little bit of IT background or some tech skills to help you there. But sometimes there's some low-hanging fruit. So go to Google PageSpeed, type in your URL and see what comes from the results. But speed in this day and age, especially with mobile usage, heavily outweighing desktop usage, is a huge part of SEO. Now, definitely speeding up your sites, the image part of it is pretty straightforward, about 2 minutes per image. It takes about 15 minutes to set up a plugin. And the Google PageSpeed I didn't put on here because it's somewhat advanced. And that can take a lot longer, especially if you're not really tech savvy. Nonetheless, image optimization and adding a plugin are two low-hanging fruit to speed up your site. Tip number 4, insert alt text to images. Alt text, what does that even mean? Well, alt text is a description that you add to an image to help the visually impaired understand images. We don't sometimes, well, I don't say we, sometimes in general, it's kind of challenging to think that actually visually impaired people are also accessing websites. They use screen readers that audibly explains to them what's happening on the web page. So text is straightforward enough, but when you get to an image, an alt text allows visually impaired people to understand what that image is. It also is part of ADA compliance. I don't want to scare everybody on this call, but accessibility and making your website accessible is a huge thing in the online world. So making sure your websites are compliant is going to be a bigger and bigger issue. It's a complete subject on its own, but just a simple alt text, which stands for alternative text, is a simple way to kind of get started on the right track to make your websites accessible. But also helps Google, which obviously isn't a person, even though we speak about Google like a person, understand your images. So when Google crawls all the websites on the World Wide Web, basically they're just reading data, but they don't understand photos, but they understand words. So when you have words that complement your images, basically you're allowing Google to say, hey, I get it. That's why this author put this photo on this page, because this photo is described in this way. Well, okay, these are the benefits. How do you do this? Well, write them when you upload, whether it's WordPress or Squarespace. And if people know what platform your website's on, I'd love to hear that too. So if you want to write WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, or if it's hand coded, I'd love to know, because we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But basically, you write them when you upload. Here's what it looks like in WordPress. As you can see, there's a section that says alternative text, and you write the description here. This is what it looks like in WordPress. It looks very similar on other websites, even in Squarespace. So I see a lot of WordPress people in Squarespace, and they literally have a section where you can add the text, and you can use that for the title as well. But you want to make sure you don't leave this blank unless it's decorative. There's a little gray text that says leave empty. I'm going to go back out. Leave empty if the image is purely decorative. So if you got some kind of squiggle or a little flower, or that's all I can think of right now, is squiggle and a flower. But if it's just purely decorative, you don't add alt text, because that will confuse people. If you're visually impaired and you're going down a page, and we'll use another example here, residence hotels. So if you're on a hotel website and you get to the end of the blog article and there's a beautiful little squiggle to notate that we've come to the end, and a visually impaired person, their screen reader says squiggle, it's not going to mean anything to them. So it's better that their screen reader just skips over that image, because it's purely decorative and not descriptive. Okay. Let's let's talk more about alt text. So you have a maximum of 100 characters, and you can leave out image of, or this is a photo of. You just want to get straight to the point. You want to use natural descriptive language. Let's actually unpack this a little bit. Let's see a couple examples. All right, so here's a photo, right? That's um, I don't know where this is from. This must be on my dog's website, cole.com. Just kidding. That's not real. Don't go there. But here's bad alt text. Stupid cat. I mean, first of all, it's an opinion. It's not really nice. But more importantly, we're not describing the photo here, right? So that would be an example of bad alt text. Even funny kitty, cool eyes, another example of bad alt text, right? This is not describing. So what would good alt text? Well, here's another one. Cat chips. Okay, so this is definitely on my dog's website. Good alt text example: cat inside a Pringles box. Very straightforward. And if a visually impaired person were coming down and get to this photo. Okay, it would be a very interesting image that would be painted in their head, but a cat inside a Pringles box, or cat with bright eyes resting in a box. Let's just leave out the Pringles part. That's fine too. It's not rocket science here, but at the end of the day, we want to just describe it. We don't need opinions like stupid cat or funny kitty. Just get straight to the point and think about how it could help someone who can't see your photo. All right. So just to recap, write them when you upload, use a maximum of 100 characters, leave out image of, use natural descriptive language. And that's tip number 4, about 5 minutes per image. This is a simple one. Let's move on to tip number 5, add internal links. All right. And pardon me if I'm going a little faster. We got a lot to cover, and hopefully y'all are enjoying this, but just want to make sure we get through everything and have time for questions. Okay, so benefits. Int, that just stands for internal, creates relationships between pages for Google to understand. So to break this down just a little bit, when you have pages on your website, links between pages, for example, home to about and about to blog, tells Google that these pages are related. And when you add links on your homepage, Google sees those as very valuable, and that's something called link value. So when you add links to your homepage, let's say you're an event planner. I'll go back to event planner. Um, if you have an event that you want to showcase, instead of burying it deep inside your website, if you move it to your homepage, that makes it much more significant to Google and a higher chance to rank it on searches. So let's unpack a little bit what create relationships between pages for Google to understand, because that's a big benefit for SEO. So let's talk about how to do that. First of all, just create an outline of your site. Here's the simplest site in the world, right? Home, about, blog, contact. All right. That's a simple outline of your site. So what you would do then is talk about the links on each page. So on home, there's links to the about page. Now, it's also usually in the navigation. So that means there's a link that's already there. But if you have a section on the body of the homepage that also has a link, that's okay too, because it's a pretty important page, right? Blog page, that could be in the body of your homepage. It could also be in the navigation. But here's a specific example. So let's say you have a blog post, and I'm just making this up, of a cat inside a Pringles box. Then if that is a post that you want to showcase and tell Google that it's important, put it on your homepage. And that way, Google understands the hierarchy of importance on your site. Internal links also show that your site is well organized and that content relates to each other. So don't just have a homepage with a bunch of text. Think about what's the most important things in your site and add links internally. So besides the creating the outline of the site, adding links based on your outline, you also want to name the links using best practices. And I want to unpack this just a little bit as well, because the tendency is to name the link, click here to the link name. That's actually not intuitive and not a best practice when it comes to naming links. And you don't also want to add a URL, just a naked URL as a link. Once again, if you think about screen readers, they are looking for contextual information that helps them, and really they don't click there. Sometimes people use their keyboards or they tap, so click is only appropriate for desktop users. So that is out of context there. And same thing with the URL. If you think about a screen reader and they're going down the page and it says go to https://catbox.com/Pringles, that doesn't tell them as much as using a short phrase like, wow, I learned so much about cats in boxes. And that would be the name of the link in blue there, right? Instead of, wow, I learned so much about this article, click here to read it. Just cats in boxes, short phrase. And if you want to start with the verb, not enough, learn more about cats in boxes. And if I'm using a screen reader, now I know if I want to go to this link, I have a chance to learn more. And just for the average person, once again, it's an active verb that inspires them to click on it if they want to learn more. So those are best practices for naming links when you add internal links rather. So recap, create an outline, add links based on your outline, name the link using best practices. And that's tip number 5. And this one takes a little bit longer because you have to think through this. So I would say about 30 to 90 minutes to optimize your homepage and add internal links throughout your site. So we've covered a lot. We've covered tips for businesses that require leads. Let's talk about businesses with storefronts, local eateries, wineries, restaurants, people that actually have customers walking into their store. 5 tips. I'm going to answer a question real quick. Shai, when you set this up for a business, do you have to have a software platform that tracks things for clients? You know what? We'll get to all these questions at the end. It's probably a better idea. But I do see your questions coming through, and keep them coming. Kelsey and Rosa got my back here. Okay, tip number 1 for storefronts, locals, or local businesses: set up Google My Business. Super basic, super straightforward, but ultra important. And if some of you have this, great. But if you don't, the benefits: number 1, you can't appear on Google unless you have a Google My Business. And the reality is that Google has a monopoly over the search business. So we have to kind of play by the rules until there's some big revolution one day, which who knows when that will happen. But basically, that's how you appear on Google. And you get a chance to show reviews, right? So if you have some great reviews on your restaurant or your business that people are coming through to town or locals are leaving, you get to show reviews and you get insights. You can see how many people are calling and coming to your website based on your Google My Business listing. It's a lot of great information, and it's all free. Well, free that you have to share some information with Google, but free as far as money. Doesn't cost money to set up Google My Business. How do you do this? Well, you go to business.google.com, add your company details, and you pay extra attention to the hours and map. Nothing more frustrating for people than going onto Google, seeing that something's open, calling, and then your recording says it's closed or an outdated location. So pay extra attention to the hours and map. Make that part of your routine to update your business hours, especially during COVID, especially after we get through the pandemic as well. This is how people access you. Local SEO is huge, especially in our small towns. You want to add a variety of photos, inside, outside, from a street view. Let them paint a picture for potential customers coming into your business. And the higher quality, the better. Some candids are fine. Show a photo of the owners. We're a small business out here. We're families and people that we see out and about. Not a lot of corporations out here. So add some photos that have some personality and some charm and really showcase your business. It goes a long way on Google My Business. So set up Google My Business, really straightforward one here, but important, about 30 to 45 minutes, barring that you do have some photos at your disposal. Okay. Tip number 2, optimize Google My Business. So you set up, we did the basics, but we want to optimize. But why do you want to optimize? Well, the benefits are here. You get a chance to appear on the local pack. And when you appear on the local pack, you outweigh the competition. What is a local pack? When I typed in pizza, I didn't get even the definition of pizza. What I got was a map, and I got 3 listings before I got anything else of local pizza joints. So if you optimize your Google My Business, you get a chance to show up in this coveted top 3 local pack because you want to be here. And the way we'll talk about how you increase your chances of showing, but think about, pizza. It's competitive out here for pizza. I don't know how many pizza owners are on here, but it's crazy out there in the pizza world. Trust me, every time me and Kelsey want to decide on pizza, we have a hard time deciding where we want to go. So basically, when you see the local pack here, this is where you want to have a chance to outweigh the competition. So how do you optimize your Google My Business? Number 1, get reviews and respond to them. How do you get reviews? Well, you can ask some friends or people or regulars that come into your business and say, hey, by the way, It really help us out if you leave a review on Google. Really appreciate it. You can offer an incentive and say, just leave us a Google review. You can't say leave us a 5 star. That, I think, according to Google, is not ethical. But you can say, for leaving a review, um, we can give you, a 10% off or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I gotta think that through. But basically, so find some friendlies to leave some reviews. Find some family members to leave some reviews. And people, if they're leaving them, make sure you respond to them, whether it's good and especially if it's bad. You can't delete them. So if it's a good review, respond to them and show them, thank you. We appreciate that so much. That means a lot. If it's negative, I'm so sorry, that wasn't the experience we look for in our establishment. Please let us know how we can make that better. And in some instances, you can turn a 1 star into a 5 star. Reviews are super important on trying to appear on that local pack. You can create posts on Google My Business. These aren't like full blog posts. It can just be like one paragraph, a COVID update, an offer that you have currently going, whether it's a sale, what's new. Hey, we have a fresh coat of paint, or just anything that's happening that's cool. If you have events at your establishment, if you're a coffee shop or a winery, you have something going on, guess what? You should also put that on Google My Business. You can even list your products. So if you're a retail shop, you can go through one by one and list out products on your Google My Business, and that will show Google that you're keeping your GMB, for short. You're keeping your GMB updated, and that there's more reason to rank it. There's also questions that people ask. Don't let those go unanswered. Anytime somebody has a question, that's a way not only to show Google that you're relevant and you're keeping up to date, but you're also helping people answer questions. And so you get a chance to potentially speak with somebody who wants to buy something or purchase something or come to your store. So if you see a question, when you have a Google My Business account, it'll notify you there's a question to be answered. Answer them. That's tip number 2, optimize Google My Business. So it takes about 30 minutes per review, post, and answers. You want to be thoughtful. So, maybe you're a fast writer, you can do it in less time, but I would give it 30 minutes per each one of these tools. Tip number 3, set up directories and citations. Okay, that sounds a little scary, but basically what I'm talking about is Yelp, Apple Maps, Facebook, TripAdvisor, and a bunch of other folks. Let's take a look at who these guys are. So the benefits is it helps your customers find you. Not everybody uses Google. Some people love Yelp. I use Yelp about, I would say it's like 50-50. I use Yelp 50% of the time. I use Google 50% of the time. And especially if I'm traveling, I tend to favor Yelp for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's the way that people do things differently, right? It also creates consistency in your NAP, which stands for name, address, phone number across the web. It's super important to make sure that your business name appears the same on every single one of these websites. Google takes that into consideration when they list them on the local pack. If you have Troy's Pizzeria on Google and then Troy's Pizza on Yelp, that's inconsistent. If you have a phone number with parentheses on one website and a phone number with dashes on another, even that's inconsistent. And addresses and locations, name, address, phone number, you want to go through each one of these sites and make them exactly the same, and on your website as well, exactly the same. Consistency is the key here. And the more consistent you are, the better that you'll rank in Google and the local pack, because Google will search the entire web, see how consistent you are. And if they see that you've done the work to clean up your listings, then you'll get a better chance to rank higher and people can find you. A la impact search engine rankings. So how do you do this? Go to the following websites and sign up: Apple Maps, Facebook, Yelp, Bing Places. There's still a lot of Microsoft users where Bing is the default search engine. Bing Places is the Google My Business of Microsoft. Yellow Pages, yes, believe it or not, Yellow Pages is still relevant. BBB, Better Business Bureau, Foursquare, and this is not really a true directory, but especially for our cities out here in Wenatchee, Chelan, and Chelan County and Douglas County, TripAdvisor is still used a lot. And I don't want to say still, it's always been, but it's used a lot. So make sure it's consistent on that website as well. Now there's thousands of directories, but these are some of the big ones that you want to make consistent. across these sites. And as we mentioned, you want to fix inconsistencies. You can also use a service like Bright Local. They charge a little bit. It can be between $30 to $100, but you basically go and check a bunch of boxes and tell them to go do it for you. So, but I mean, it's not as simple as that. Sometimes you have to, follow up, and you have to make sure that you're available for a phone call. Some places require that you answer your phone in order to verify your phone. But Bright Local is a good start to kind of do a lot of those previous ones I just showed you, plus a ton of others that you don't even realize you should be on and people are using. But they help automate that a little bit. And I use this with my clients. It's very helpful, and we've seen some results by using Bright Local. So I highly recommend it. There's a charge for that, but it's a lot less time consuming than doing this one by one on your own. You should also submit your info to local chambers of commerce, like the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, right? That's a perfect way to be seen and be found, not just by Google, but by people, right? People come into the chambers of commerce, they go to their websites, their websites rank high for tourism search terms. Make sure you submit your info to local chambers of commerce. In our other business, Rotten Apple, Kelsey and I, we were on 2 chambers of commerce. If we had another location that we were doing shows in, we would have been on 3. So local chambers of commerce is huge. And think about this too. Ask vendors, suppliers, partners to link to your site as well, because directories and citations are kind of 2 different things. What we've been talking about for the most part are directories, but citations is when somebody else's site who's not a directory. Let's try to come up with an example here based on somebody's website. So residents in hotels. Residents in hotels. If you work with, let's say, like a luxury bedding company, right? And I'll make this up, but they're called Lux. On Lux's website, since they're a partner and you use them as a supplier, you could say, hey, by the way, here's an idea. Do you have a section where you list where your Lux bedding is available in hotels? And so by doing that, you create a network of links pointing to your site, right? So residents in hotels, think about some of your suppliers, vendors, and partners, and find ways to add your website's link on their pages. That increases the value of your domain, and you have other ways for people to find you as well. All right. Lavender farm, that's an example too. I specialize in lavender essential oil and fresh cut flowers, but also sell body care products. If your products are available in shops outside the area or inside the area, make sure they're linking to your website, the owner of the lavender farm. You're basically creating more opportunities for people to find your site, and you're increasing the value of your site by doing so. Should you respond to all reviews? Should you respond to really old reviews? Yes and yes. Tip number 3, set up directories and citations. It takes about 45 minutes per platform. No, per platform. It could take less, but to be very precise and take your time here is important. And you want to make sure that you cover each one of those, not only with some of the basics, but some photos if they have options, extra information like a description. So it can be a little time consuming here, but very, very important to have a foundation of local SEO. All right, almost here, folks. Tip number 4, create content. Wait a second. You're like, Shai, we don't need leads, and we don't have, people searching for our stuff. We're just like a pizzeria, or, we're just like a local shop here. We don't need people to find content. I don't want to write about, my panda bear doll that I'm selling. And okay, that's not a good example, but let's think about, I don't want to write about, my body care products. There's not blog content there. Well, let's think about how we can benefit first. So you have a chance to appear in more local searches. So the more content you put out there, once again, even if you're a straightforward retail storefront shop, the more content, the better. It doesn't necessarily have to be blog content. You can take advantage of Google My Business's posts and just stay there. You don't have to spend hours writing content and stuff like that. But the more you write about, and we can talk about different ideas for local stores and restaurants and businesses, but the more you write about, the more chances you get ranked and appear in a local pack. But you can also get noticed from outside your area. I know it doesn't always apply, but people think and plan their trips and vacations, right? So when they're planning and doing that kind of stuff, the higher you rank, the more chance that maybe they'll add you to their itinerary. Okay, so how do we do this, right? So pick a product or service you provide. Let's start there. And then you can share your expertise on it. For example, if you're a local bar, share a cocktail recipe. Now, you don't want to give away the farm here, but something fun and useful for people goes a long way. Both just for people and to be helpful and share something cool, but also in the eyes of Google, which I feel like I'm saying a lot more than I'd like to for some reason. But of course, use localized keywords when relevant, meaning that like if you have, well, I'll stay on that slide. If you're just existing in Wenatchee, use an example. Actually, I think I have some examples here. So, no, I guess I don't, but use an example like Wenatchee's top pizzeria, or for the Lavender Farm example, and I don't know where the location is, so I'm just making this up, but Wenatchee's most beautiful lavender farm, right? You take advantage of the location and put that in the title of your website in order to localize that as well, and localize them in content that you provide. So if you write something relevant to lavender oils or the benefits, right? The benefits of lavender oil, then you can talk about how Wenatchee is a part of that, and like the soil and the weather and everything contributes to the power of the oil that you produce. When you write about things that are localized, not only does it provide value about the product itself, it also creates cachet around the region that's specific, because guess what? You can't get Wenatchee lavender in any other city besides Wenatchee lavender. Okay, so that's creating content. And it's a big one. It can take you a little bit, but it's 100% worth it. It doesn't have to be 60 minutes, especially you have like a straightforward Google post. And we can talk about different examples for businesses that might still have a challenge around this, but it's definitely worth it, and it contributes to ranking as well. Tip number 5. Oh, here we go. Optimize page titles. I did cover this here. So page titles. What is optimizing page titles? And I'll fix that typo before I send it out, but it should be tip number 5 up top. But this helps people identify what you do, right? So if you optimize your page title, people know what you do right away when they see you come up on Google. And it confirms that you're in the location as well, right? And you get a chance to help people make quick decisions. If I'm looking for a handyman in local time in the local town, if it's Rupert's Fix and Fun, it doesn't really tell me like what's happening. Maybe the word fix, but Rupert's Fix and Fun, Chelan's #1 handyman. Now I know what Rupert's Fix and Fun, which is a terrible name. Please, nobody buy that domain or name your business Rupert's Fix and Fun. Okay. But optimize page titles. How do you do this? Use a strong benefit-driven statement. For example, Johnny's rated top bar in Chelan, right? Top bar is the benefit there, and you're also localizing it by saying Chelan. So you want to change these page titles to take advantage of the opportunity that this is what people see in Google search results. If you're a professional service, Jeff's Accounting, trusted #1 by locals, right? You can really have a chance in your page title when it appears in Google to talk about the value and the benefit, especially if it's true. It should always be true, but especially if it's true. And include the city where you can. Let's take a look at a couple examples here. So here's a great example of Lake Chelan Winery, unique handcrafted wines from the, oh my God, look at this. There's a ellipses, ... That's even a little bit of a trailer or a reveal. I'd definitely click on this one. #1, unique and handcrafted. That all sounds wonderful. I still have the brand name, Lake Chelan Winery. And there's even some ... I'd love to find out what they're going to say. And there's an opportunity here, right? Right here, we just have Chelan Cellars. I know the word cellar, and you see some word wineries underneath there, which is good, but there's definitely an opportunity there to expand, just like the example above did. So optimizing page titles is tip number 5. About 10 minutes per title. And why I say per title is because it's not just your homepage. Let's say it's contact us page. contact us for a tasting today in Chelan or whatever city it is. Really humanize some of these titles, put a benefit in there, take some time, and you can have some results. And that's tip number 5 for businesses with storefronts. So let's move on with our agenda. We're almost here at the end, folks. Resources. Number 1, really quick, I want to talk about a success story, SEO success story. This is Heckmat Law and Mediation, a Los Angeles firm. It's a one-person family law firm. It's the guy you're looking at right here, Raymond Heckmat, great guy. And he's one of our great clients. We love working with him. But we started his website in August 2020. He had a website before that, but it was just a one page with one blog post, right? And we redesigned it, we recoded it, and did all the SEO. And every month we've been publishing at the very minimum 2 blog posts and then sharing them on social media and email. So when we started in August 2020, he had a handful of visitors per month. Okay. Literally, 5 to 10 visitors per month. And that's okay because he had a one-page site. This is brand new. So we're literally talking about somebody starting from scratch less than a year ago. We started building out blog posts. We had 1 blog post in August 2020, had a handful of visitors per month before starting the SEO work. Look at this chart here. From August to September, we went from a handful to 168. It stayed kind of flat in October, 162. Once again, we just started writing 2 to 3 blog posts per month. In November, it bumped up a little bit to 255. December, 442. January, 885. We're seeing some doubling almost going on here. February, 2,078 visitors per month. And last month in March, almost 10,000 visitors to his website. This is a one-man firm with publishing 2 to 3 blog posts based on a lot of things we've seen here. All the tips that we've seen, we incorporate all that we just shared with you. And is this a promise? Of course it's not a promise, but it can happen. This is a real story with a real client of ours, and it can happen. And take a look at this organic search down below. This number 1 in this table, 88% of his traffic comes from people searching on the web. This means not people that already know his website. That's what direct means. Or social media even, which is 397. And that's another area of improvement that we'd like to work on. But organically, essentially, quote unquote, free traffic. There's no paid ads that we use to drive this traffic. It's based on content that we wrote. So we went from 168 users in 2020 to almost 10,000 users in March, and it continues to grow in April. Just one last couple of details. When you type in the words peaceful divorce, his blog post ranks as number 1 and number 2. Once again, we spent time researching and writing the content really thoughtfully and carefully and making sure it was helpful for people coming to his site and searching in this term. When they type in peaceful divorce, we're trying to answer that question and did all the keyword research we went over. But try it yourself, folks. Type in peaceful divorce and see what comes up in number 1 and number 2. Also number 1, number 2, number 3, just for the word prenup. As we saw earlier, it's really hard to rank for single words because you're up against definitions like Wikipedia and other like big law sites. And somehow this one-person firm is ranking number 1, 2, and 3 for the word prenup. Huge success story. And that's just the start of it. Traffic's just the beginning. Now it's about how do we take that traffic and convert them into clients. That's the big challenge we have ahead of us. But this is not half the battle. This is the start of this growth for this business. And love sharing that with you today. Yep, using tips from this presentation and more, some more resources, just a bunch of links here, folks. And so when we send this, feel free to click on it. And of course, go to shaicreates.com. Reach out to me, reach out to Kelsey, go to our Instagram at shaicreates, ask us questions, and book a consultation with us. It's completely free for a consultation. If you want to talk more about this, if you liked what you saw today, if you hated what you saw today, I'd really love to talk to you. But in any case, reach out to us. We're a resource. We're local. We live in Chelan. We come out to Wenatchee all the time. Love the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm so sorry. And we only have a few moments left for questions, but happy to stay on a little bit extra. But that's our presentation. today. Thank you. I'm going to stop the share now.
All right. Thank you so much, Shai, for joining us. We have about 4 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to just speak up or use the chat box. But sounds like Shai is going to share this presentation. So I'll be able to send it out to everyone who registered. I think we did have one question earlier from Steve that we weren't able to answer. So I don't know if you have time to answer that.
Okay. Is this the question? Okay. So I have two questions that I see here. When you set this up for a business to have a software platform that tracks links for things like customer online reviews, mentions of a client business anywhere on the web,
and how a business's competition is also performing.
So the question is, should you set up a software platform?
No, the question is, when you set a client up,
Yes.
do you have a software platform that you use in your reporting that tracks things for your clients like customer online reviews, mentions of a client's business anywhere else on the web, and how one of your clients' competition is also performing?
Yes, there's multiple tools that you can use for that. On a local level, I would suggest Bright Local.
Okay.
And that's the same tool that helps you with citations. They have a really robust platform that does review management, that does competitor tracking. So you can compare how your competitors are doing with some of the same keywords you're going for. And as far as mentions, there's some other tools. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. Bright Local does that, but there's definitely other tools. You can have a Google alert set up for mentions on the web. There's also a tool called SEMrush, super pricey, but that also does that as well. I'm going to move on to another question here. When you set, oh, wait, that was it, right? Were there any other questions, Rosa, that you can point out? Does anybody have any other questions in the last 3 minutes here? Steve, did I answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else with questions? Anything?
No. All right, guys. So Shai's going to send that presentation, and then I'll also send his contact info. So if any questions do come up, you can just email him, call him, or message him directly, and he'll be able to help. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And next month, we have our next What's for Lunch. So please register for that if you're interested. And then again, thank you all just for joining us. And thank you, Shai and Kelsey, for putting this presentation together. It was wonderful. So thank you.
All right. It was our pleasure. Everyone take care, stay safe, and hope to hear from you, or hope to hear some of your success stories later down the line.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.